as well. So unless something was absolutely the right thing to do, then.
Do you know what, Wayne? You've had good opportunities now, but I still think you'd be suited, if you can, to work with much better players, whatever that role might be.
100%.
System with somebody, but that's where your strengths might come out, I think.
I've put myself, every club I've been, I've put myself in a really challenging situation, so.
We'll get back to Wazza, Keane, G Nev in just a quick second, but remember, if you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. And also, don't forget to click the notification button so that you know when the next Big D video hits. And also, if you've got something to say, if you disagree with anything that I put forth, please put it in the comments. I read all of the comments. Now, in this little clip, Roy, Wayne, Gary Neville, they're talking about Wayne Rooney's time as a manager at Plymouth and some of the things that he might have learned, some of the things that he's going to do now that he's left. And also they're going to be discussing, what potentially could be the next move for Wayne Rooney. So yeah, we're going to leave it with those guys. And then afterwards, I'm going to be talking about some of the great players who never really made it as a great manager and some who did. We'll stick around for after that, and we'll have a little chat then. Here's the team.
Back. And we're glad to have you back.
We are glad to have you back. We spoke to you last time, didn't we, after Birmingham? Yeah. You were absolutely adamant, weren't you, then, when you finished at Birmingham, that you were you absolutely wanted to go back in. How are you when you sort of look at sort of what happened at Plymouth and where are you at today with it?
Yeah, no, I would like to go back in.
Again?
Now.
Yeah.
You all right?
I would do. But it'd have to be like the right club, certainly the right club.
But what was Plymouth not? I mean, where would
I think you always have that ego, don't you? And you always have that confidence that you can go in and you can get the best out of a bad situation or a difficult situation. And obviously that wasn't the case. It never happened that way. But yeah.
Wouldn't you do one?
I am going to enjoy time more though with my family
and stuff.
Yeah, I've just been skiing.
How was that?
With Keane, loved it. Brilliant.
Did you ski on your snowboard? Did you ski or snowboard?
Ski.
Did you actually do skiing?
Yeah, yes, did you?
Yeah. Would you like? You're young enough. Would you, because you've been in and you kind of been in, would you take a time where you go, let me have a couple of years, I'm going to have a look around, see what's going on, how people are doing it?
Yeah, no, I'm not in a massive rush to go back in, and there's different things which I'm looking at to try and get involved with as well. So unless something was absolutely the right thing to do, then.
Do you know what, Wayne? You've had good opportunities now, but I still think you'd be suited, if you can, to work with much better players, whatever that role might be.
100%.
System with somebody, but that's where your strengths might come out, I think.
I've put myself, every club I've been, I've put myself in a really challenging situation. So even with better group of players or at whatever level that is, then.
And you could say that for lots of coaches. Obviously, we all want to work with better quality players, but I think
then sometimes you've got different
better
ideas which you think you're trying to put across to the players, and then it's sometimes maybe you have a bit of arrogance where you're thinking, right, this is the right way, you have to do it the right way.
What made you think? Keeping the philosophy as well, if you kind of try to keep the philosophy.
That got to the winner after 2 games.
but then like having the players to do it, isn't it? When you think of managers that are like.
Having better players helps, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What made you think Plymouth was the right? Because when I remember speaking to you, because obviously you were doing some of these with us, and it was Plymouth, I was thinking, just the location in itself, just being like, it's about 6-7 hours from where you are.
Yeah,
and obviously someone has to be a manager down there, but I just think that even that sort of that distance and that travel, that having to get back sort of every week to see the family, then going back, so obviously Keane didn't move. I was thinking, why would that be the right fit? What made you think it was?
Part of being a manager, regardless anyway, you're in it, you're fully in it. So whether you're 6-7 hours away or it's on your doorstep, you're ingrained in the job. It doesn't matter really where the location is. And one thing I will say, I love my time there. I think the fans were great, the staff were great. We just hit a bad run of form, and the players, I can't fault them. They were trying, they were giving everything, and maybe just lacked that bit of quality. But
you're on about why you're picking a job, Gary. Like you went to Valencia, you don't know a job until you go into it. Yeah.
sometimes there's no logic to it. You talk about areas, or people talk about ownership.
Well, you went to Ipswich, obviously, didn't we? Which was a lot
Yeah,
of
so
fun.
you can look back at that and go, but sometimes you look back and go, well, it was a bad decision. But sometimes it's a bad decision because you don't win enough games.
Yeah.
I went to Sunderland, you win a few games, you go, that was a good decision. It'll dictate by your results where you think obviously it was the right decision, but you don't know the dynamics or if you're the right fit for the club. But we see it constantly. We see managers going to jobs and you look and you go, I don't know if that's the right fit for certain managers. Sometimes it just doesn't happen for lots of managers. So this idea of, why pick that club? Why not pick that club? Until you go in there, then you don't know the real ins and outs of a club, shall we say. But then again, we're lucky. Wayne's had a few opportunities. A lot of coaches out there are desperate for opportunities, and you keep hoping you're going to get another one. Sometimes you don't. Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough
But do you
gig.
have no regrets because you are someone you're like, if I'm going, I'm doing it, like travel, whatever, like you have given
Yeah, no,
all,
I think
do you
I've
know
had
what I mean?
some great experiences, good ones, bad ones. So I think you've always got that to fall back on. Whatever happens in the future, you've always got that to fall back on. But I'm definitely looking as well to try and expand and do, different things and enjoy my kids more, enjoy, my family more, enjoy doing stuff with them, certainly while I've got this time off and try and enjoy.
But it's
different
that balance
experiences.
of letting people see that you're still interested in something, wanting to do something, so you can stay away from it. But at the same time, people need to know, yeah, but Wayne's been he's gone over to Barcelona, he's been watching them train, he's gone in and watched them. People need to know that you're still trying to be amongst it, rather than you just being with the lads.
Yeah, no, of course, yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what I'd probably think I'd probably look about doing it, something like that.
Keep involved, yeah.
Stay involved. If you
I
want
love
to
how you pick Barcelona.
go again, yeah.
There's
Go again.
I'd have no problem dropping into an under-21 team or going in as a coach. I'm still young enough to learn and develop.
Yeah, but even to do that, Wayne, but go in with top.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like
So
an
I'm not-
international
You would
team
go
or
into a youth team or a reserve team
so
or
I'm
an
not naive
under-21s.
enough to think.
You know,
I know how the game works, and
But with quality players, though.
Yeah.
No, I was thinking, even with
I'm
you,
just having a good group of
Yeah.
players who are at a level where.
It's strange. You mentioned there about why you would like go to Plymouth, but you hear lots of stuff that managers get jobs. People go, well, he lives in the area, as if that guarantees you a bit of success. If you don't live, remember Rafa was on here. Rafa, vast experienced manager, was saying, why Everton? He went, well, I lived in the area as well. You're like, no, there's no logic why a manager might take a job. So not everyone's going to get a job on their doorstep. Most managers do have to travel.
I always thought that with England and that having, even like yourself, Stevie Gerrard, Frank Lampard, coming through that system with that calibre of young player is probably where I would have, if I was involved with the FA, I would have probably had you guys in there. You know what I mean? Just the next one and the next one. And you're already working with quality players all the way through. So if I'm like 15, 16, 17, and I'm working with Rooney or Gerrard or Lampard, I'm going to be absolutely buzzing with that. I think they've missed the trick.
Yeah, but I think
in that
with the
respect.
structure of the way the FA work, it's anyone who I think might be speaking a bit out of term. Anyone who's got a bit of character, strong character, it's difficult to go in there and work. That's why, for instance, you see in Gareth, who's done amazing, Lee Carsley in there.
Yeah, very subservient kind of player.
Yeah, certain fit, isn't there? Yeah.
But you
This is
say
why- This is
about
why we'll struggle.
you say about working with younger players and like technically and tactically great, but now you've got the experience of working with older players as well, haven't you? And trying to manage them, which I guess that's a whole different ball game. So your experience is going to be so vast now, really.
Yeah, well, the older players at times were a lot harder than the young players, definitely. I thought Jack Gelka had Jags at Derby. Jags was brilliant. Obviously, play with Jags and Curtis Davis were good. But you get some players who are very different. I think because they know they'll struggle to do certain things. With young players, you can develop them. The all in, they're all there for you, and you can try and develop them. With ones who've got bad habits, they know they can't get out of it, and then they look for excuses then.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of time for Wayne Rooney. He seems like a really genuine guy, and clearly he's a Manchester United legend. And I don't know, I just get the sense that he could be a really good man manager because he seems quite personable and he communicates fairly well, as footballers go. Just because you're a great player doesn't necessarily mean you'll be a great manager. I mean, they used to say about Roy Keane. Roy Keane, was earmarked to take over from Fergie. Oh, he's like Fergie on the pitch. No, he isn't. No, he wasn't. Roy Keane was a great player, not a good manager. He had a little bit of luck with Sunderland, a bit of momentum and whatnot, and he did a job, fair enough, got them up. But, you can imagine he would have burned players out too quickly just because of his motivational qualities, shall we say. And Wayne Rooney, on the other hand, doesn't seem to be that kind of personality. But I don't know. The thing is, with great players, I can imagine it's very frustrating for them, especially if they're not managing big clubs and they're managing Sunderland or Plymouth or something like that, because they might be saying something to one of their players that they, as players themselves, would find very simple. But because the players that they're managing are very limited in their skill set, then they might not be able to pull off what would be a simple move for Wayne Rooney or a Roy Keane. So I can imagine that's very frustrating for someone like Rooney or Roy Keane, or maybe not. Who knows? Maybe it's a tactical issue, because when you're a manager, you're almost like playing chess with people and balls and tactics and things like that. You have got to look at the bigger picture. You've got to create balance in that team, depending on who you're playing or depending on who you are and how good you are. And when you're a player, you're very sort of insulated and you're very much looking after number one. Now, I don't mean that in the sense that players are selfish or anything like that, because they still have to sort of play as part of a team and whatnot. I'm just talking about, they are just looking after what they are doing. They are making sure that they are fit. They are making sure that they're informed. They are making sure that they've done their workout. They are making sure that they are doing their job correctly in training and on that pitch. And they're not really thinking too much about what the other players are doing, unless the other players are getting in the way of what they're doing. Particularly at that high level, Keane and Rooney, they never really had to worry about some of the players that they played with, because they played in top teams with top pros and whatnot. But when they drop down a couple of leagues to manage, they're going to be looking at so many bad habits. It's going to bamboozle them. So when Roy Keane said there that, perhaps it would be worth for Wayne Rooney to get into an environment where he's playing with better players, there might be something in that, because Wayne Rooney might be able to relate to some of those, good players, because obviously he was a good player himself. And, which leads me on to my next point. I mean, you think about Pep Guardiola. Now, Pep Guardiola was a very good player. I wouldn't say he was a world beater, but he was a very good player. And he won La Ligas, he won the Champions League with Barcelona. And he suited Barcelona when he took over. And Roy Keane, quite rightly in that little clip there, said, find a club that, sometimes a club suits a manager and whatnot. So Pep Guardiola suited that Barcelona side. But I stand by that Pep Guardiola is massively overrated, because he is the luckiest manager of all time. But this isn't going to turn into a Pep Guardiola hate fest, as I'm sure some of you might like. But no. He's still a good coach. But at the end of the day, the facts are the facts. He walked into that Barcelona team that had Messi, Iniesta, Xavi waiting for him. And because he knew how they played, he understood the Barcelona system. And because he was a good player and he played with good players, he knew how to relate to all those good players. So he knew how to relate to them, he knew how to coach them, and he knew how to get them to win. So it was very easy. It was easy for him. Easy. Even Xavi, when he retired and he took over, he did quite well, Luis Enrique as well. So the point I'm making is that just because you're a good player doesn't necessarily mean that you will become a great manager. But with the Guardiola example, it's difficult to figure out if he is actually as great as he is, despite what he's won, because he's always walked into the right environment, and that's a skill in and of itself as well, because he took over Barcelona and then he took over Bayern Munich, who had just won the treble, and then he took over Man City and he had loads and loads and loads of money. But managers like Mourinho wasn't a good player coming up, so he had to develop that. Alex Ferguson was a good player, but he wasn't a great one, and he had to develop that. And he's always said it's always best to sort of make sure that you've took your apprenticeship as a manager, and that you study for it and you do the courses and all of that, because it's that you need to sort of maintain when you become a manager. And some of these players, some of the great players, just because they found football easy and they think they can transfer those athletic skills into a more cerebral environment, which, I mean, that says it all then, really, doesn't it? But, you know, there have been some good managers, some good players who have turned into good managers. I mean, Beckenbauer, he won the World Cup. Carlo Ancelotti was a decent player, so, you know, and he's done really well. So I mean, I suppose it can happen. Frank Rijkaard is a good example, actually, because he won the Champions League with Barcelona, and he won the Champions League with AC Milan too. But I suppose the musings of today, it's mainly centering around like people like Wayne Rooney. I mean, you've got to give him his due. He's getting stuck in and he's trying, but it might be worth for Wayne to just take a step back and just go from club to club around the Premier League, around Europe, studying under various managers, studying under, say, Conte over there in Napoli for a little bit, studying under Pep if he wants. Actually, no, I don't want him to go to Manchester City. I mean, he could go to Ruben Amorim, because Ruben Amorim seems to be tactically astute at the very least. He just doesn't have the players for it at the moment. And, you know, just go on, you know, serve his apprenticeship as a manager, because he served his apprenticeship as a player, so why wouldn't he do it as a manager? But anyway, what do you guys think? Do you think, well, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think it's a case of just because you're a great player doesn't necessarily mean that you can translate that into being a great manager? Or do you think it could be easier if some of these players were just steered in the right direction? And what do you think it takes to be a great football manager? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.